Hi there, I'm Alex from the Southern Ukulele Store and I'm back again this week to look at tenor ukuleles, but specifically tenor ukuleles suitable for beginners, and then we're going to move up a little bit to look at something suitable for an improver slash a lifer, somebody that knows that they're going to stick with the ukulele now but want to invest a little bit more. And then finally, as we move around to our final 4 or 5 ukuleles, we're going to look at instruments up to £1,000 that could be considered high-end instruments that are a step up from maybe the large production factory instruments. So we've got 13 tenor ukuleles to look at, starting at around £100, ending at £1,000. It's a very nice round figure here. Last week's video on concerts, I decided this week there will be a couple of instruments here that we featured in the concert size last week. Many of you were interested in the KA-SSEM-T and wanted to hear the tenor version, so we're going to do that. Same with the ebony, same with the Ohana spruce and rosewood model. We're going to start with a KA-TI-30, a very popular ukulele. Before we start, I just want to give my friend Roman a shout out. Thank you very much, Roman, for sending me this hat. I really hope you enjoy your new Blackbird Farallon. And in the meantime, let's head back to where it all starts, around £100 with the KA-TI-30. Let's begin. Okay, the first ukulele we'll look at today is one of the new kids on the block. This is the KA-TI-30. Now, the KA-TI-30 looks pretty unique from here, doesn't it? But actually, as you get close, you will see that this is a laminate mango ukulele. And Kai make 2 models at this price point, the KA-TI-30 and KA-TI-90. The 90 is a maple veneer instead of the mango, but the mango one can often look as light as the maple. So really it's just down to what kind of grain pattern you like on the surface. The KA-TI-30 has a kind of bounce to it when you strum it that a lot of instruments at this price don't. It feels very lightly made. It's a satin, well, more of a natural finish than satin. But the main benefit for the car ukuleles at this price over other instruments are these side sound ports here. Because not only does it give the listener more of the overall tone, but I think actually just by diverting some of the sound of the instrument out away from the sound hole and out, you just get a bit more for your money at this price. You know, when you're sat playing it, you can hear the tiny nuances in how you play a lot better than you can without the side sound hole. Personally, I've never been a fan of how they look, but from a practical standpoint, these are the best thing to happen to the ukulele in the last few years. The tuners on the Kais are a nice kind of rudimentary closed back geared tuner, and they have a nut width of 35mm. The fingerboard material on this one is a technical wood, same with the bridge, and the nut and saddle are, I believe, bone. I'm not sure, I think bone. I will put an amendment in the bottom of the listing if I'm wrong. Yeah, nothing too fancy here. You get a bit of rosette around the sound hole, and you get a tiny laser etched rosette around this sound hole too. A fantastic ukulele for about £109 early 2020 UK prices. This also comes with a really nice padded gig bag, so a great ukulele to get you up and running. Perfect for a beginner that is willing to actually invest in themselves for their first instrument. Let's give it a play and see what you think. Okay, the second ukulele we're going to look at today is the KA-SSEM-T, which stands for the Solid Spruce Exotic Mahogany Tenor. Now, this ukulele has a solid spruce top with these really lovely horizontal grain on almost all of them, exotic mahogany back and sides. Now, these are laminate back and sides, but this feels very different to the other Kala tenors around the 130, 140 price point. This does feel more like Kala's £200 plus ukuleles. You'll notice the instrument's got quite a lot of binding on it, so there's a herringbone binding around the front, teamed with black binding on the sides. You also have a rosette which has the herringbone but also a separate 3-ply binding Really nice, unique look for this ukulele. It's not something you see on all Kala models. It feels, it feels like the future is here with these models for Kala. It feels like the next step up in that company's progression. They have a 35mm nut with open back, very good tuners. And they have a new bone, a dark new bone, synthetic nut and saddle. And the fingerboard on this is, of course, ebony. Another fantastic model from Kala. If you were to come into the ukulele now as a beginner and you allowed yourself a £150 budget for your first uke, you really are spoilt for choice. This is a fantastic ukulele, well within most people's budgets. A great, rich, deep sounding tenor that can be loud, it can be soft, it can work with you and it can grow with you. So great starting point. This is the Kala KA-SSEM-T. Okay, and the third ukulele we're going to look at today is the Kanile'a Islander AT4. Now the AT4 is laminate acacia, comes in under £150 here in the UK early 2020. It has an oven coal fingerboard and bridge with plastic bridge pins, but key thing to note, this ukulele is attractive to a beginner because it follows some of the spec of the Hawaiian-made Kanile'a lines, which other ukuleles at this price just don't think to or have decided not to do. This has a 38mm nut width, so if you want slightly more meat on the bone on your hand when you're playing, you want a bit more space between the strings, you want something just a bit more comfortable than a 35mm nut. At the beginner's price point, you're really not spoilt for choice. Thankfully, the Islander range has 4 or 5 models under £300 that have a 38mm nut with this pin bridge. And the pin bridge is my favourite thing about the Kanile'as at this price, because when you're first starting out, or you've only been playing a couple of years, you don't want to faff around with a tie-on bridge. The pin bridges are easy to use, and I believe that they really do create a bit more sustain on the ukulele. This is a laminate. The previous ukulele we looked at had a solid top, but I would say that this instrument is tonally slightly more complex, even though it's a laminate. And you have to think that the slightly fatter neck, wider nut, and that pin bridge will have an effect on the tone of the instrument. The machine heads on the Islanders are an open back tuner. Some of our listings on the website will show them with black buttons, but they have started coming through this year with white buttons. So please do check with us by all means if you have any questions. Yeah, great ukulele, can't recommend it enough. The MT4 and SMT4 are also fantastic ukuleles around the same kind of price if you want something that looks a bit more like a laminate mahogany or a spruce top. And you can also go up to solid wood series, about £200 to £300. Fantastic ukes. If you want the 38mm nut, highly recommend. Let's give it a play and see what you think. Okay, the fourth ukulele we're going to look at today is the Ohana TK35G. So last week we looked at the KA-SSEBY-T, which was this ukulele in a concert size, and many of you said in the comments that you felt it was the best value instrument for that price point. So under £200, the various other ukuleles I showed were not quite as nice as this based on the video. So let's see if you think the same about the tenor this week. The TK-SSEBY-T is quite unique in that we have not been able to have this in the UK for the last couple of years, but it has been available to US Ohana dealers. The reason being these laminate rosewood back and sides. Now the laws on that kind of movement have relaxed, we can get them finally. So this has a solid spruce top with some lovely chocolatey looking laminate rosewood back and sides. Has an abalone rosette with an oven coal fingerboard. The Ohanas have a slightly wider nut width than the Kalas at 36mm, just ever so slightly wider. You do feel it in your hand. It's amazing how different 1mm difference can feel from one instrument to the next. You have the open coal bridge with front white binding and the 3-ply, and really nice white plastic binding to tie those dark rosewood back and sides together. The machine heads on this are the open backed variety, and you will notice that there is a slotted headstock. One of my favourite kinds of slotted headstocks too, because it has the little dip in the neck, so that when you're resting or you're not looking at what you're playing, your thumb automatically goes back to the first position. It doesn't get in the way either. Some of you may find that slotted headstocks in general feel a bit unnatural, but those of you that really like the look of it, like feel wise, this is the one to go for on a budget. It's just a fantastic ukulele. So I'm going to give the Ohana TK35G a play. Hope you like it. Back at the other set. Sounds great. Okay, and ukulele number 5 this week is another really popular uke at this price point. This is the Kanile'a K-A-SSEBY-T, which stands for the Solid Spruce Ebony Tenor. Now this ukulele and this ukulele tell you everything you need to know about what's popular right now. What's popular right now is spruce tops with dark, luxurious looking back and sides. And I think Kanile'a hit the nail on the head with this model. This is the sister model to the KA-SSEM-T, which features all the same spec, but with the ebony back and sides. But for those of you that are still with us and looking at this ebony model, it's got some really nice walnut binding to tie the back and sides together with the top. You've got the herringbone around the rosette. Open back tuners with a 35mm nut. Just a great tone machine, just over £200 at the beginning of 2020 here in the UK. Kind of the next price point up from the previous ukes we've looked at, but a great stepping stone for somebody that's maybe spent £60 on their first ukulele and they want something that is vastly superior to that. This is the place to start your next search. Let's give it a play and see what you think. Okay, so we're moving just up the price range a little bit now. This is Kanile'a's KA-ASFM-T-C, which stands for All Solid Flame Maple Tenor with that Florentine style cutaway just there. And these are great. I had 2 customers come in store yesterday to try instruments up to about £300. Both of them went away with one of these. I nearly didn't have one left to do in the video. They just look different. The maple is very light and it can take a bit of getting used to, but the texture and the tiny quirks in the wood make you just want to pick it up and look at it, and then when you're holding it you might as well give it a play. It's one of those instruments. It also has a really nice purple binding that ties the whole thing together, but it doesn't look remotely feminine. A lot of people associate maple and the purples with female players, but this ukulele just, to me, I play this, I love it. I think it's great. I think it's unique and it's sleek, and that Florentine cutaway, it's not too old-fashioned, you know, it feels like a modern instrument. It feels something that's been built in the last year, because it has. A great ukulele, a slotted headstock with the black open back geared tuners, a bit of gold just to give the whole thing a bit more of a deluxe feel to it. The KA-ASFM-T-C also has an ebony fingerboard and bridge with a 35mm new bone nut and saddle. Yeah, The concert version of this became very popular after we featured it last week, and I see no reason that the tenor shouldn't win in some of your hearts too. The KA-SSEM-T-C doesn't have the catchiest name, but it's one of the more unique instruments you're going to see on the list today, and at under £300 it's fantastic to be able to have something that's great quality, unique, with a sound and a style that will make you want to pick it up and play it every time. So let's give this one a play and see what you think. Okay, so let's stick around that £200 to £300 price point for a moment and take a look at this ukulele, the Ohana TK35G. Now, I would be very surprised if you are watching this video up to this point and you have not heard of the Ohana TK35G. It's not a new model. Ohana have been making these for over 10 years, and for a very, very long time before Ohana introduced different variations of it, this was the tenor to go for when you wanted a solid wood instrument. Kanile'a and Ohana must have had 95% of the ukulele market sewn up in the early part of the last decade, and this ukulele was a big reason why. It's all solid mahogany top, back and sides with a mahogany neck and some very good Grover open back tuners. They also have a 36mm nut, which is bone, with a bone saddle and an Ovencoal fingerboard and bridge. It's based on the old Martin designs of ukuleles, and it's very identifiable. You know, nothing really looks like an Ohana. An Ohana is its own thing, and it's a great model to get you going on your journey. If you think, I'm a lifer now, I'm sticking with the ukulele, and you want to spend up to £300, this ukulele will always be one that comes up when you Google good ukuleles, and it deserves to be on that list. It's fantastic to think that up to £300 you can get something that's all solid mahogany, and many of you ask me what the most popular woods are up to £300. That seems to be a sticking price point for many people, and it tends to be either spruce tops with laminate back and sides, solid mahogany, or solid acacia. And I think for me, without going up to the ukulele we're going to look at next, which is £100 more, Ohana really do have that mahogany sound, feel and style sewn up. So this is the Ohana TK35G. Let's give it a play and see what you think. Okay, the next ukulele we're going to look at today is the Pono MT. Nice and simple name. The MT stands for the Mahogany Tenor. Pono are an interesting brand. For many years they sat alone at this kind of price point. The instruments are not made in China like everything else we've looked at up to this point, but made on the Isle of Java in Indonesia. And it's a very small factory producing only Pono instruments, or some guitars as well, and the Ponos have a completely unique feel, look and sound to them, which isn't always the case with instruments, you know, up to that £350, £400 price point. If you're looking at a Pono, they come in 6 flavours that are worth mentioning up at this kind of price point. This is the Mahogany Tenor. They also do an Acacia Tenor and a Mango Tenor that all look fairly similar but have just different sounds, different sensibilities about them. And they do a deluxe range, which is about £120 more, which are made of slightly nicer figured wood with a gloss finish but retain a satin neck. And you can get their MTD, so the Mahogany Tenor Deluxe, the ATD, the Acacia Tenor Deluxe and the Mango Tenor Deluxe. Those 6 flavours, they are the popular ukuleles under £500. Everything else is kind of trying to beat the Pono at that price. The Pono has an ebony fingerboard and bridge, with a satin neck regardless of which finish you go for, but the MT is the satin mahogany. You've got Grover open back tuners, and finally you have a 35mm nut. Yeah, the Pono MT is probably one that you've all seen or you've written down when doing your research to look at further, with good reason. It's not the fanciest looking ukulele, but I can almost guarantee it's going to compete with instruments twice its price here in sound. So let's give it a play and see what you think. Okay, the next ukulele I'm going to look at today is the one I've been most excited to show you in this video. This is the Snail S60T. So the Snail 60 tenor. The name and code for this instrument don't really match up with what it does. So you'll notice first of all that this ukulele has very, very highly figured wood, and that is acacia. It's solid acacia top, back and sides, and they're only using the best wood available to them on this model. It is at this time the most expensive Snail model, between £400 and £500 you would be looking at for one of these instruments in the various sizes. But look at that fantastic abalone rosette. Just Snail did not need to come out with something that looked like a £3,500 to silver, but they did. It's just gorgeous. Has an ebony fingerboard and bridge. Snails have a 35mm nut and a really highly compensated saddle. This one also has Padauk binding going up the fingerboard and around the front and back of the body, which is handy because it means that you can see the fret dots when you look down at the fingerboard. Sometimes with darker or lighter woods you can't. They've even matched the buttons on this ukulele to go with that binding as well, which is a really cool feature. Snail have got a very unique looking Dejung open back tuner on a slotted headstock. A great slotted headstock with a more subtle dip than the Ohana, but very, very comfortable. Finally, the Snail ukuleles have a pull-through bridge rather than a tie-on bridge or a pin bridge, so they can be a bit fiddly to restring, but the contact that the strings are making with the ukulele are more true to the top. There is nothing holding this ukulele to the bridge. The bridge is glued down, but the strings are actually going through that and they are connecting directly to the top. So a winning combination here. I did forget to mention one thing that's quite important. This ukulele has an ebony armrest, so when you're sat in the pub showing everyone how cool your ukulele is, ordering drinks, you know, eating your tapas, whatever you do, you can kind of rest and relax as you do so. Just a deluxe ukulele here from Snail. Well worth its price tag. Highly recommend you check this one out. This is the S60T. Let's give it a play. Okay, let's move on now to another fantastic ukulele that I'm constantly going on about. This is the Eastman EU3T. Eastman are a fascinating company that do things completely differently to everyone else. They have won multiple awards in the last couple of years, a couple of Best in Show nominations at NAMM for their guitars, and they currently only make one type of ukulele in the soprano, concert and tenor size, which is solid quilted mahogany with a violin antique varnish finish, so proper nitrocellulose finish. It has a rosewood fingerboard and bridge, not too much bling because the wood does all the talking, but you have these really nice snowflake abalone inlays which you don't see on many ukes at this kind of price. You have wood bindings as well. I think they're rosewood bindings. And even the heel cap of this ukulele is just so precise. This is a ukulele built by a mandolin manufacturer, and you can tell. Eastman really do care about how these instruments look, but they perform well too. Even the neck on this has a slight sunburst tinge to it with that varnish. Just a great job from Eastman here. And you have the open back Grover tuners. They have a 36mm bone nut, rosewood bridge and fingerboard. And for under £500, this comes in a hard case. It's easily the best traditional spec ukulele you can get with a gloss finish. I've not found other companies making a better mahogany gloss uke. And it sounds like I'm slagging off the Ohana, but for twice the price of the Ohana, I hope you would agree that this looks like twice the instrument. Because I think it is. It's one of those instruments that can help customers justify spending more on a ukulele, because they feel like they've got an instrument they're going to grow into, and they feel like they've got something that they're going to look at time and time again and be really just delighted with. Most of the people that have bought Eastmans from me have contacted me several months later and said, "Oh man, I'm still loving that Eastman." And that's the biggest compliment that I can give these instruments, is that I've not found a customer yet that's bought one and just didn't like them. They're just fantastic. Let's give it a play and see what you think. Okay, so where do you go from an Eastman tenor around £500? You go up and you look at the Rebel Double Cream Mango Tenor. Now, we've done very well with Rebel the past year. Having never had them before, they were one of the best-selling ukulele brands of 2019. And towards the end of the year, they introduced a proper tenor model that wasn't a special edition. And unfortunately, it kind of got lost in the shuffle in November and December, because as we built up to Christmas, I couldn't make these videos, and I think there were less dealers out there having a chance to sit and play them. The Super Concert Rebels that we've been stocking for the last year are fantastic, but the tenor has just that bit more, I want to say, substance to it. It's got more depth. The Mango is just fantastic. It sounds like KA if KA hadn't overslept. You know, it's slightly more sprightly, slightly more chirpy, but still very, very smooth. Mango, just the wood of the future. There's not much more I can say about it really. Ebony fingerboard and bridge. They have a 37mm nut, and they roll their fret ends off, so the string spacing is more akin to a 36mm, but the wider nut width and slightly chunkier neck profile make these just really comfortable. Has the same neck as a Kanile'a. As many of you will know by now, Rebel make the Kanile'a OPO ukuleles, which I wanted to feature in this video, but I only have 13 spaces and enough time, so look out for another review of the OPO coming very soon. You have planetary tuners, the Goto gear tuners that stick through the back. One of the best tuners to use. Really, you can get a really quick turn ratio on these compared to a normal geared tuner, but they stay in tune, they stay firm. The Rebel Double Cream Mango Tenor. Let's give it a play and see what you think. This one's got a low G, so we'll play a couple of pieces for you. Okay, the penultimate ukulele of the day today is a ukulele that many of you asked me about, It's one that we haven't featured that often in the past, purely because when I have to do the audio samples, I play things this way, and high-end ukuleles with a cutaway upside down, they just look a bit strange, and I don't want to put you people off fantastic instruments. So think of it as being this way, and I'm sure you're going to fall in love with it. This is the Nui Nui UT1K. The UT1K is all solid koa on the top, back and sides, with a mahogany neck that's glossed. You have a slightly wider 37mm nut width with ebony fingerboard and bridge, with a really cool compensated saddle that has extra compensation on the high G. And these instruments intonate and play just fantastically. You might recognise this shape from the very famous and very popular Moonbird UT200 ukulele, and this is the koa sister of that ukulele, except for this ukulele has a slotted headstock. The tuners on this are a Nui Nui branded open back tuners, really reliable tuners. And one thing that I like about this ukulele that you might not pick up from listings is the heel joint of the neck, which, much like the Eastman earlier on, is so expertly crafted. You can tell this was done by hand, and it's just smooth, and it's a touch that doesn't need to be there on a ukulele at this price, but it just shows the level of care and attention to detail that a Nui Nui have. So for around £1,000, this ukulele is all solid koa with a hard case. It's got a cutaway, ebony trimmings. It's quite simple to look at, it's quite plain to look at, but I think the unique shape of the Nui Nui often looks its best when it doesn't have lots of different cosmetic appointments on the top. They sound great too, so let's give this one a play and see what you think. Okay, here we are, the last ukulele of the day today, folks, which is the Kanile'a K-1 TE in Gloss. Now, Kanile'a, one of the big three Hawaiian K brands, along with Kamaka and Koaloha. The K1 is their standard koa tenor model, so none of the thrills, none of the slotted headstocks and elaborate cosmetic appointments that you get as you move up the range. The K1 is just good koa on a tenor ukulele, with an ebony fingerboard and bridge, a 38mm nut. 2020 versions have a satin neck, so they always feel a bit played in even from new. And the headstock veneer is now ebony with white mother of pearl Kanile'a logo. Just looks classy, it feels classy, they sound classy. Some other things Kanile'a do of note: the nut and saddle are new bone synthetic material with vast compensation there. The bracing on a Kanile'a, the thing you can't see, is a real important factor in why they sound and feel so good. So the Kanile'a bracing is a touch relief system. I'll show you a close-up of the inside here, but the simple explanation of what it does is it puts less pressure directly on the top of the ukulele, and with it less strain, and dampens the sound a lot less than traditional bracing. When you hold and play a Kanile'a, you feel the whole thing vibrate with you. They feel quite delicate, but with this bracing, they're very, very strong. It's a fantastic bracing pattern, and arguably Kanile'a's best secret weapon, because you can't see it, and you don't really necessarily know why it's so good, but a Kanile'a feels a certain way, in large part because of what's going on underneath the sound hole. The K1 comes in 3 flavours. You can get a K1 normal, which is just normal koa, like this one here, although you'll agree it's still gorgeous. They do K1 deluxe koa, which is slightly more figured koa. They do K1 premium, which is a slightly more figured koa again. So you do pay about 10% more for the premium model than you would pay for the standard koa. And in this instance, for £1,000, you're getting one of the big 3 Hawaiian companies' signature models, the model that most people aspire to. And sometimes you can get a normal koa ukulele like this one that you can just dig and it looks great. I'm going to give this one a play, the Kanile'a K-1 TE, the last ukulele in our video today. Thanks a lot. Okay, so there you have it, folks. You've just heard 13 tenor ukuleles starting at around £100, going all the way up to £1,000. Did you have a favourite? Is there something that's going to be on your shopping list for 2020? I'd love to know what you think in the comments section, or you can contact us in store on 01202 430 820, or you can email me at alex@ukulele.co.uk. I'm sorry if some of the words have been a bit muffled in this video. As you can probably tell, I've been losing my voice as I'm recording it. Hopefully I haven't fluffed too many things up here, and if you do have any questions, I always reply to the comments when they're relevant, so just let me know. I'm not sure what next week's video is going to be about yet, but tune in next Friday and we'll see what's next. Have a great week.